Shawn, help us understand, what is the greatest concern you and others at the New Jersey Family Policy Center have as it relates to public school education policy in the state of New Jersey as it relates to what parents should or should know and what their children are saying potentially to teachers and others about their sexual identity, their sexual orientation? What's the problem?
Because when school boards begin to really listen to the concerns of parents and pass policies to make sure parents are notified and involved in their child's social and emotional well-being, the Attorney General slapped them with civil rights violations. All we're asking for is to make sure parents are not kept in the dark about their child's own development. And to complicate that with gender identity issues, parents should be there with their child and not be sidelined by the state government.
The New Jersey Statehouse Watch is on. From Trenton, we explain what's happening inside the Statehouse, speaking directly with legislators, policymakers, and budget experts to bring you the facts behind the decisions.
There's no doubt that energy bills are about to skyrocket this summer.
$300 million to Newark billionaires? That ain't cutting it for rural New Jersey. Enough of it.
Madam Clerk, please on the machine for a vote.
Received 46 votes in the affirmative, 25 in the negative, and 0 abstention.
We break down bills as they move through the New Jersey legislature before they become law. With your hosts, Jack Brangan and Constance Ditzel. So stick around. Here's Jack and Connie.
Welcome to New Jersey Statehouse Watch, and welcome to Daylight Savings Time. We're having a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and frankly, we hope we can keep it that way. Yesterday, in our lovely assembly, we are ready to codify into law a suite of sanctuary state laws. So we do hope to keep a beautiful day in the neighborhood, in your neighborhood and mine in New Jersey. What we learned, we will give you a little bit of information on at the end of this. And I say that because we are about current events. We're about current topics. We want to keep you in the news of what's going on. The topic of sanctuary state bills we talked about last podcast.
That's right.
And we'll give you the shakeout at the end of the show, because for this show, we're going to jump to another topic that is equally current, because there's always something going on current in New Jersey and Trenton.
Right. It was a very busy day yesterday in Trenton.
Busy, yes.
There was as Constance mentioned, there was a rally, and we have some video from that rally, that thanks to Paul Canitra. And during the show here, we're going to hit we have a packed show, a number of important topics. The most important, we're going to spend the most time on, there are 4 abortion bills that are heading through the assembly. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. And maybe, Constance, you could explain to everybody what we do here and what we're going to be focusing on.
Right. So tonight, we call them abortion bills. Even though there is not a new abortion statute, there are 3 or 4 amendments that are furthering the cause of abortion in New Jersey. So again, we wanted to address this not just because it's current, because when we were on the campaign trail, as we mentioned before, both of us ran for assembly, we learned that many people do not know something very, very important about our laws in New Jersey, and that is you can have an abortion in the state up to any there is no gestational limit. That means
right.
Up to 9 months for any reason.
Up to the point of birth.
Absolutely.
If all of a sudden you're about ready to deliver and you got tickets to go to Bermuda, well, you can just go in and get an abortion here in New Jersey.
Right. So the fact that so many people didn't know this, and when I would say that, they'd say, oh, that can't be true. And I'd say, well, yes, it is. And just to give you a little bit of history so you know what the state of the law is right now, March 24th, 2026. The decisive statute was a 2022 Freedom of Reproductive Choice Act. And that was A6260 at the time. And this passed both chambers and signed by Governor Murphy in January of 2022. But that wasn't the first thing. The first thing was pre-Roe. New Jersey has already been on the forefront, always been in the forefront of abortion. Before the 1970 law, they legalized abortion as they considered it a constitutional right. So that was even before that came into law. They did not yet have unlimited access. It was generally a early in pregnancy, early trimester thing. That was back in the 70s. And then in 1982, the New Jersey Supreme Court struck down the limits on Medicaid funding for abortion tied to health and recognized abortion as part of a broader right to privacy. And in 2000, the New Jersey Supreme Court blocked parental notification laws to notify parents. This theme of chipping away at parents knowing things is you're going to hear a lot in our podcast, because it's in this law, it's in other things we're going to be talking about. And I was not shocked. I guess nothing shocks me now. But going back to 2000, there was always a threat of, we're not going to tell the parents. So this was already going on. And then when Murphy put this in, this was the thing that locked it as a fundamental right. It's codified in our laws. It's not an executive order anymore. This is it.
Right. And an abortion up to the point of birth, New Jersey really stands alone, not only in America, but really throughout the world. There really are not very many countries that will allow a pregnancy to go so long. Correct. Before you have an abortion. However, New Jersey, in its infinite wisdom, thinks that, what the heck? If a person wants to have an abortion a week before the delivery date, it's okay with Trenton. There's no problem there. The other thing, as Constance mentioned, was parental notification. So this means now if you have a 12-year-old in New Jersey that's 9 months pregnant and she wants to get an abortion, she can do that without getting permission or even notifying the parents. I mean, I don't know whether that plays out that way, but the law states that you can do that without notification. Right. So
this is significant because the Dobbs decision, when this came down, I was visiting friends in Germany, and of course they get CNN International over there. They basically just hear one thread of news coming in to Europe, and they were really quite strong about how wrong the Dobbs decision was. Well, I went back to learn that Germany, France, Spain, they don't allow abortion beyond 12 to 14 weeks.
Right.
And the UK, Sweden, Netherlands, Iceland, they will go up to 22, 24 weeks with certain restrictions. So you're looking at 6 months. So these people were giving me grief about how restrictive it was. And I come to see that New Jersey really, really tops them all.
Yeah. Now, you may be wondering, New Jersey now, you can have, as we said, abortion up to the point of birth. Where else in the world can you do that? Well, you can go to China. China and New Jersey are on the same page. They're on the same wavelength. You can go to Vietnam and have an abortion, just like New Jersey, up to the point of birth. You can go to North Korea. North Korea and New Jersey are on the same wavelength when it comes to abortion. So in Korea, our company is sort of a nefarious group of countries, that are shoulder to shoulder with New Jersey. Right. I really think as a state, no matter what your position is on abortion, we can really do better. This is very difficult for a lot of people to understand. And years ago, this might be called infanticide.
That's right. That's right.
The only difference really in the killing of a baby would be delivery, which could be only minutes. Right. A minute prior or a minute afterwards at birth, it's infanticide. A minute prior, somehow in New Jersey, it's covered.
And I'm told there are very, very few that's the case, because one reason is surgery isn't perfected on how that's going to happen. Right. It has become more perfected. But what I also learned is that there aren't, when you're a private organization like Planned Parenthood, you don't have to deliver the numbers on how many that's happening in a year. And I don't think that's something they would happily brag about. Right. So we really don't know. That's an unknown.
That's actually one of the laws that we're going to be talking about tonight. And the Democrats are good at maneuvering in the dark. And this is something that they do keep in the dark. But one thing that is not in the dark, and one of the things that we're going to be doing on our podcast is naming names.
Okay.
We're going to find out who in the world would come up with such a bill of abortion in the 9th month, who would think this is a good idea. And this all happened in 2022, and it all starts with Craig Coughlin, and Annette Quijano was the Speaker Pro Tem back then. Louis Greenwald was the majority leader, and John DeMeo was the minority leader. Over on the Senate side was Nicholas Scutari, was the president, Teresa Ruiz. I should point out it's only the Democrats that voted for this. No Republicans voted for this law. It was only
look that up. Okay.
in the Assembly. Prime sponsor was Valerie Huddle, Elenia Pintor-Marin, Annette Quijano, and Shavonda Sumter. In the Senate, the sponsors were Loretta Weinberg, Teresa Ruiz, and Nellie Pooh. These are all the people behind these bills. And these are apparently people that think that this is a great idea. I think this state can do better. The only way it's going to get better is if you elect Republicans. If you don't do that and only elect Democrats, nothing's going to change.
Well, let's bring in a name that is going and fighting against these bills, that has something to say about it. And we met him in Trenton, one of our first visits up there. He's up there all the time fighting for parents. And that's all I'll say. I'll let him speak for himself.
So Shawn Hyland is with us tonight of the New Jersey Family Policy Center. Let's bring Shawn in out of the greenness of the green room. And it's almost here.
Hello, Shawn.
Is Shawn
coming in?
Hey guys, you there?
Oh, there we are.
There he is. Great.
Okay, great.
Hi, Shawn.
Hey, Jack. Hey, Constance. Great to be with you.
Yeah, Shawn, thank you very much for taking the time tonight. We really appreciate it. So, Shawn Hyland, tell us a little bit about who you are, your organization, generally how big the organization is, and what are the goals of the organization, and then we'll sort of jump into things here. So,
sure. I'm the Director of Advocacy with the New Jersey Family Policy Center. We're part of a national state-based policy council alliance with 40 other state family policy councils around America. Our vision in New Jersey is to see a state where families thrive, life is cherished, and parental rights are protected so that God is honored. And I've been with the group now for 7 years. You'll see me in Trenton. You'll see me in school boards. You'll see me in churches, educating people of faith about what's happening here in New Jersey. So we are definitely standing strong and standing firm for parental rights. And of course, as we'll discuss tonight, for protection for babies in the womb.
Right. How long have you personally been at the helm?
Well, I have been with the group since 2019. Before that, I was involved in different Christian ministries here across the state. But in 2019, they needed someone to come alongside the organization, begin to go to Trenton and fight for pro-family policies here in the state. And I've been with them ever since.
Great.
Okay. So, Shawn, we're going to talk about 4 bills here. And the 4 of them have to do with abortion. Let me read off the first one here, because I think the first one's sort of an interesting one. Provide certain deceptive practices in advertising of pregnancy-related services or healthcare services violate Consumer Fraud Act. What this basically means is the state of New Jersey is going after the pregnancy centers in the state. Is that how you see it, Shawn?
Yeah, it's so unfortunate, and it's very unfortunate that it came up again this year. So this bill was originally introduced last year, and it was heard and went through committee last year in the Assembly. And even back then, they had major constitutional problems with the bill. The Office of Legislative Services in Trenton looked at the bill a year ago, and even they deemed it to be unconstitutional because it was very clear that the legislature was targeting these nonprofit pregnancy resource centers, these faith-based pregnancy resource centers, all because they don't perform abortions. Because they're very clear in all their marketing, in all their advertising, on their websites, they don't perform abortion or refer for abortion, but they do offer pregnancy-related services except for that. And yet the state is seeking to try to limit their ability to advertise their services to women in need. I mean, that is tragic, and it's happening again and again, year after year, here in New Jersey.
Isn't this bill a result of the Supreme Court case? The Supreme Court case, we actually had our own Attorney General Platkin issue a subpoena to First Choice Women's Resource Centers, a faith-based nonprofit operating several pregnancy centers in New Jersey. And he issued a subpoena in 2023 investigating deceptive practices. And he said they misled women about the services. He suggested they offer abortion referrals when they do not, and said that they use misleading medical claims or advertising. Can we bring up the video? We have a quick video about the Supreme Court case that is, in fact, was heard, I believe, in January, and I don't believe we're going to see a resolution of that until summer of 2026. Do we have a video, Mr. Producer, there?
Did you have complaints that formed the basis of your concern about the fundraising activities here?
We certainly had complaints about crisis pregnancy centers that petitioned.
No, about this crisis pregnancy center.
So I think we've been clear from the outset that we haven't had complaints about this specific.
So you had no basis to think that they were deceiving any of their contributors?
I don't think that's correct, Your Honor.
But you had no factual basis?
I don't think that's true, Your Honor. I think, for example, you could take a look at a comparison between the donation page for First Choice that we have carved out from the very beginning.
So you had no complainants?
We had no complaints.
What do you have to say about that, Shawn? Bring Shawn back here. Let's see if he's coming.
I think Shawn's timing out.
Yeah, that was kind of, we saw this as part of Clarence Thomas's reaction. So there haven't been complaints.
Right.
There wasn't a complaint, and that was a point that was driven home.
Yeah, I think Shawn might have to dial back in here, but the core of this bill and the complaint was based on consumer fraud. Mm-hmm. That the pregnancy centers were being fraudulent in that they were presenting themselves as a medical center, as such, they should, include abortion in their services. And we're talking about consumer fraud here, and based on the video that we just saw, there was no consumer that was defrauded.
Right.
Right. So there was no complaint. So that would lead you to believe that there is an aggressive posture from the state of New Jersey, that this is in itself fraudulent, that this really had nothing to do with consumers, that this is really the state of New Jersey trying to make itself one of the epicenters of abortion. And so that there were no complaints. There was really no fraud that took place. And I think this is just, as I said, this is just the state of New Jersey going after these pregnancy centers, which, by the way, do not take taxpayer dollars at all.
No, they're private.
Yeah.
And to the point, it's like if there was false advertising, only 4 of the 19 Planned Parenthoods in New Jersey offer prenatal care. It's on the website, but if you walk in, it's a good case for false advertising if it's not going on. I mean, you could make the same case that they're false advertising.
It is.
Saying on their website, and yet if only 4 out of 19 offer prenatal care, then that could be considered false advertising.
Yeah.
Again, folks, this is your taxpayer dollars. These lawsuits are major, they're big, they're time consuming. We have sat in Trenton, we've sat in Supreme Court hearings in Newark, and you sit there and you think, what are we doing here?
Right. So you have this case with a pregnancy center where they're asserting fraud when there actually is none. Mm-hmm. And then you have Planned Parenthood, which really has nothing to do with parenthood, as you said, which is actually the fraud. And, that seems, this is just totally fraudulent, actually. It's a lawsuit.
Most people would know, most people,
Right.
or any young woman who's getting advice.
Right.
Planned Parenthood is a very big organization. Anybody knows or can find out very quickly where to get an abortion. You can find Planned Parenthood readily. And by the way, Governor Murphy made it clear that we quadrupled our funds to Planned Parenthood 4 times from when he started in 2018. So we have quadrupled our funding for them. So there's plenty of money there for what they call reproductive care. But if you really want reproductive care and you want to reproduce and you go to a pregnancy center, then it looks like you're under scrutiny.
So the fraud keeps going, because I think there was an Oprah request concerning some of the information around these pregnancy centers, and also an Oprah request to the state attorney general. And it turned out that the attorney general was in collusion with Planned Parenthood, so that this law that we're discussing here was actually written, in partnership with Planned Parenthood. So
you might tell folks what an Oprah request is, because they only know what Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah, actually, that's right. I'm not sure what it stands for, actually. So open
records
request.
Open records request. So in other words, there are many, many things that you can actually write, and you are entitled to get information on. It's called an open records request.
Yeah. It looks like Shawn's back.
Yay, Shawn. We were worried we lost you.
Yeah, so I was hearing the video from Justice Thomas, and somehow it cut out after that. Not sure what happened there.
Okay, so why don't we go on to the next bill? All right. The next one here is Bill A 1970. This is where New Jersey enters New Jersey in Women's Reproductive Health Care Compact. Okay, and this is some sort of state organization, I think, that's going to be forming, that's all about abortions, of which New Jersey is going to be go into partnership with these states. So what do you think about this? It's a good idea or not?
Well, I mean, it's a terrible idea, and for many reasons. I know when I was in committee hearing, I testified on this bill a number of times, both last year and again this year. And one reason, just right off the bat, is the fact that this bill, it prevents our state from working with any other state's law enforcement to investigate any abortion that might happen here in New Jersey. For example, let's say a 12-year-old child or a 13-year-old girl is transported across state lines into New Jersey, forced against her will or coerced against her will to come to our state to receive an abortion, because in another state, there's parental notification. But in our state, there is no parental notification. So she can be brought here across state lines, undergo an abortion procedure, even against her will, and yet our state will put a shield of protection over the person who brought that child here, because it will not communicate or give any information to any other state that's a part of this abortion state compact. That's troubling. That is horrendous. And yet that's only one reason why the bill is bad. I'll give you one more before we discuss, I guess, other options or other bills as well. It also prevents our licensing boards here in our state, our medical licensing boards, from taking any action against any physician that harmed a woman because of an abortion. They can't take any legal or any licensing actions, and insurance companies cannot raise malpractice insurance premiums, even though doctors have harmed women in abortion. No other profession in New Jersey has that type of immunity besides abortion doctors here in the state. So it's a very troubling bill. It's horrendous on many levels, and yet, of course, it went through the committee.
What were, you had a few reasons. What else? You had a couple of other reasons on this too. No?
Well, I mean, another reason would be that we don't even know what states that we're joining. And I mean the state of New Jersey doesn't even know what other states they are joining, because there is no abortion state compact yet set up. So we're obligating our state to now join other states. We don't even know who they are. And in the state compact, it says that any resident of any other state that is in this compact can force their attorney general to take New Jersey to court to
Yeah.
force us to carry out the obligations of this compact. So you could be a taxpayer, let's just say in California, again, just hypothetical, because there are no other states in this compact yet. But let's just say California most likely will be one. Any resident in California can force their government to take us to court because of this state compact. We're giving away state autonomy to residents of other states. It is insane, yet it went straight through the committee.
Went straight to the
Incredible.
committee.
Yeah. I mean, the citizens of New Jersey should be aware that even though if they are against abortion, that they are paying for abortions in New Jersey. You know, that abortions are covered by Medicaid, and Medicaid is funded by the federal government and the state taxes. Now, the Hyde Act prevents the federal dollars, the federal portion of that, to be allocated towards abortion. But the state taxes, this is your, you know, the income taxes, your sales tax, all this goes into the Medicaid pot for the state and pays for abortions.
Where's the separation of church and state? This is when they claim this one all the time. Here's where people should have deeply held religious beliefs on this.
Yeah. So
the separation of church and state. Suddenly here it's okay.
Right. And there are situations that I don't think it's common, but if an undocumented person comes into the state of New Jersey with no insurance, no money, 9 months pregnant, and they need to get an abortion, they will get an abortion here. And part of it will be state funds, part of it will be donations, a pool from donations and that sort of thing. So to me, this pact, if we look at this 10 years down the road, this is going to be, all these states are going to be exchanging patients in and out of the states for abortion. This is like an abortion union. It's just not a good thing.
No.
Let's ask him about another one. I feel like we're on a game show, except this isn't a game, it's for real. This is Bill A4532.
Right.
It prohibits the sharing of automated license plate reader information for interstate investigation concerning reproductive health care services that are legal in New Jersey. What does that mean, and why would you oppose it?
Yeah, so similar to the abortion state compact bill, this just takes this one point and puts it in this bill alone. So again, it would allow anyone to bring any child here, of course, or a woman, but let's just say a 14 or 15-year-old girl could be brought here to New Jersey to undergo an abortion, even against her will, even by a human trafficker. Now, again, that might sound extreme, but there was a former human trafficker who testified against the bill, knowing how this bill would potentially open up New Jersey's borders to allow human traffickers not to bring girls here to undergo forced sexual acts. No, I'm not saying that. But they could be forced and be sexually abused and be raped in a different state and become pregnant because of that forced sexual encounter. But then in that state, that abortion may not be legal. So they force the girl to come to New Jersey to undergo the abortion, to put her back on the market in the state where she came from. And yet that transaction, that travel from one state to another, if a law enforcement agency, let's say in Ohio, was looking for this because they have some evidence that this was going on, New Jersey will not share that information with that law enforcement agency because abortion is part of the reason why they traveled here.
This is very current to us. People hearing you talk, they're going to think, there might be some isolated incidents. Well, we were both part of a symposium 2 weeks ago, the New Jersey Coalition Against Human Trafficking. And I was happy to see it was a real great mix of people. Some of the Attorney General, the new Attorney General's people were there. We are very united in human trafficking. Let me tell you, it is alive and well in New Jersey. And we also learned that major sports events bring it even more alive. We've got a World Cup coming up.
Right.
And that was one of the reasons they had this coalition come together. So this incident you're talking about, this isn't, there's going to be one or two gals here. No. This is an operation, and there's every reason to be very concerned about it. And this is all fresh information for us that we learned how deep it is. And also, this is helped by the fact that we're a sanctuary state, and we make all of this easier.
All right, so not sharing this information is a boost to the human traffickers. Oddly enough, it is, Women's History Month, and all these bills, the victims continue to victimize women. In this case, trafficked young girls. In this particular bill, the Association of Chief of Police head came on and testified. Maybe you were there when he testified against this bill. So this is a guy that's spends his life in law enforcement, and I think they should probably listen to him. Really.
Yeah.
But this is all about abortion in New Jersey. New Jersey's got a thing about they want to be at the abortion center. So the next one here is A4074. This is the last one.
This establishes a travel advisory.
Right.
A reproductive health travel advisory. And this requires the New Jersey Department of State to create a travel advisory so that pregnant persons, and I believe it is worded pregnant persons, can know how restrictive other states' abortion laws are so that the residents can make decisions when planning their travel when they're pregnant. This is kind of interesting because this came up in the last legislative session, right? And they were talking about this last June. And I remember distinctly that this was brought up when they were trying to get through committee the Fairness in Women's Sports. Right. And they didn't have time, but they had time for this. So Fairness in Women's Sports, which is pro-women, I think, was tabled and put back in committee, and this was brought up. So what are your comments? I have some comments, but what are yours first, Shawn?
Yeah, so first comment is, so in the last legislative session, this bill was passed by both chambers and sent to the desk of Governor Murphy. And yet even Governor Murphy vetoed this bill in the last session. That's how insane and ridiculous this bill is. And yet here we go again in this new session. It was reintroduced. It got through committee a couple weeks ago. And then just yesterday on Monday,
we're not getting the audio here.
The state Senate passed it. Are you able to hear me?
Just a moment, Shawn. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes. Can you hear me?
You're very faint.
Can you hear me now?
We can see you. You look great.
Well, that's good. That's
step in the right direction. But while we're looking at that, maybe we can also put up a map. This is a color-coded system where blue, full access to reproductive care without risk of prosecution. Yellow, here's your states. There you go. That'll give you an idea. Yellow, exercise increased caution. Some restrictions, legal risk possible. Reconsider travel. Severe restrictions that could lead to prosecution or denial of emergency care. Now, this is actually, we're leaving ourselves wide open because there is, in fact, no state in the union of that I'm aware that would deny emergency care. It is a misnomer that they would not save the life of a woman over the child. That is an absolute misnomer. If I were one of these states and I was one of these red colors, it seems there'd be a case for lawsuit, although I don't know that they would bother. But this is outrageous. Yeah. And the fact that this is given priority is really interesting.
If New Jersey wants to make enemies from other states, this is the way to do it. To put out an advertisement for all these states that are in red, Texas, Florida, and painting these states as some sort of terrible place,
Texas,
to be. Right. So I think what's going to happen is that Texas is going to turn around and they're going to actually start maybe marketing a new map that the most expensive places or the most dangerous places to live in, the ones that are in red, and they're going to put New Jersey in red and then, publicize that to everyone in Texas.
Right.
This is not a good idea. This is not good.
No, this is not a good idea.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the sum and total of some of the bills that are out there. There are others that we could go on about. And I don't know that we have Shawn back yet. When we see him, we will invite his comment.
Right. So he did want to talk about the freedom to read.
He did, right. And let's see if he comes back shortly. But Jack and I can at least start that conversation because we were testifying in Trenton. We were there too.
That's right.
Freedom to read is kind of a freedom to read. That's really right there. The question is freedom to read what?
Right. So, I mean, the titles of all these bills, you know, if it's a Democrat bill, whatever the title says, it's going to be the opposite. The freedom of read is their way to get, I would say, pornographic books into the libraries of your high schools or middle schools. So, Shawn, are we back or?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
No sound.
No sound.
So.
Very, very faint.
Yeah, nothing has changed on my end. I'm not sure what's causing that.
So
keep trying here.
Hey, he's coming. He's coming.
Can you hear me now?
There we
There you go.
Oh wow. Okay, great.
Oh,
Not sure what happened there.
Now we're back in business. So whatever you had to say about freedom to read, you can start over.
Well, I was able to hear you guys. I'm not sure how you couldn't hear me, but I was hearing your conversation.
Okay.
So I understand we're on the freedom to read right now, but I mean, I'll say this. I want parents to know, because I think right now the big problem here is that school boards are not telling parents that a policy has been adopted at their local district where parents can now challenge books that they believe are age inappropriate for the grade level that's served by the school library. So the one thing the Freedom to Read bill did, it said that you cannot restrict access to a book because of the viewpoint or the author, unless it's inappropriate for the grade served by the school library. If it's grade developmentally inappropriate. So that leaves a lot of books, I believe, in violation, because there are books in our public school libraries that a school board, a community, if they were to look at them, they would probably say, this is inappropriate for this age level. So this policy has been passed at the local level, but if parents don't know, then no books get challenged.
The other thing is, and you mentioned age appropriate, I became very familiar in looking at scores on New Jersey assessments for basic skills. And in that same data, you will find the percentage of developmentally challenged children and students in these school districts. And all the school districts across New Jersey, and we're talking as of 2 years ago, so I'm not thinking it's better, 15 to 19% were developmentally challenged. So if you have nearly a fifth of your student population not in an age-appropriate level for reading and other skills, this is exactly who you don't want in an age-appropriate shelf for a sixth grader if they're not operating at sixth grade level in other ways.
Yeah, these books, this is all about obscenity and pornography. The books that we have seen can be described no other way. They're at least obscene, if not pornographic.
Very much so. And I will say, you testified, we both testified at that hearing. And I remember people brought posters. We didn't show them to the audience, but they were facing out to the assembly. People could see them. And I remember I was interrupted. I think I was speaking, and Senator Zwicker said, that's not obscene. And the retort was, it's obscene by virtue of our own obscenity laws in New Jersey that aren't from 1620, folks. They were revised in 2022. So I guarantee you that these 2022 obscenity laws, now schools have what's called qualified immunity. But nonetheless, if you would take this book and it was read out in the street or in the park, you would be hauled into jail reading that to a child.
That's right. So, that one also as you mentioned, the librarians, even though some of these books are obscene, they do get immunity from prosecution for breaking the New Jersey obscenity laws.
I also think that this has kind of gone quiet. This was signed by Murphy in December of 2024. And it's kind of gone quiet. All school districts were supposed to come up with what they call a model policy.
Right.
To the degree each school board has really looked at these books, or if they're just handed a sheet by the ALA, I would think it might be the latter. And not all schools make it readily available for parents to be perusing the library.
Right.
But believe me, if you have a child in school, remember we talked about this thing called an OPRA request, open records?
Yep.
If I had a child in school right now, I would want to be able to at least go into that library and look myself. And if they didn't let me, I would use an open records request to at least do that. That would be my advice if anyone's sitting out there with a child in any of these schools.
Right.
What are any other thoughts on this, Shawn? Or on the part that we were talking about before when we couldn't hear you?
Well, yeah, and along the lines about the school library, some school districts have adopted a software program called Quest. I believe it's called Quest, where you can go online to the school website and access the school libraries. You can see what is in there. But again, that's not everywhere. That's probably a minority of districts. But if you're a parent and your school library books are not listed on your school website, it's possible for them to do that. So you should go and advocate to your local school board to buy the software that the library catalog can be accessible online on the school website, because it is possible, and this happened in some places.
Thanks for, it's called Quest?
The school board member that I spoke to that has it in their school district, they believed it was called Quest. That could be incorrect, but that's what I was told. I have to do some more research, but they actually have it right now on their website.
Okay, well, there's a new commissioner of education and at the state level. And she does have public hearings. This would be the opportunity to bring this up, because this should be mandated across all 600 school districts. This is, especially with this freedom to read, is mandated now for all 600 school districts. The flip side of this, we should be able to see these books.
Yes, Shawn, mark your calendar. We think the date for next public comment is May 6th.
Right.
And please, I want your viewers to know that only applies to school libraries, not necessarily to the teacher's classroom. So who knows what the teacher might have in their classroom? The bill directly applies to school library. So I would still, if I was a parent, do some digging on what's in that classroom, because if that's not accessible to be checked out of the library, it's a personal library, let's say, of the teacher, that's sitting there for students to use or access during free time. I'm not sure that would fall under the oversight of this law. So there is still a risk that even if books are challenged, you might find them in places besides the library.
Good point. Thank you.
Okay, why don't we finish up with 5756?
Right. There are lots of things your group handles, and good old policy 5756, people, we fly that number out there, but I guess we should make clear that it is about establishing a gender curriculum that starts with grade 1.
But in New Jersey, right?
New Jersey. And the name of the policy, so this is not my name, the name of the policy is transgender
guidance.
Transgender guidance. It is not.
Right.
It is their own name. It's called, Transgender Students, District Policy 5756.
Yes, and with this policy, as some people might know, it's not mandated.
That's right.
Districts thought it was when it first came out 5-6 years ago, so they did adopt it. But since then, many districts have repealed it, and in court, twice in court, the Attorney General's office acknowledged that the policy 5756 is not mandated. They conceded that in court to the judge. So 2 different court cases, one in Hanover Township and then one in Monmouth County, 2 different court cases, both judges decided that this policy can be repealed at the local level. So if any school board doesn't repeal it, it's not because legally they can't, it's simply because they don't want to. So parents need to let their voices be heard. And what this policy does, it says that if your child, no matter what age, including second grade, fourth grade, or first grade, if your child is confused about their gender at school, if they want to use the bathroom of the opposite sex or the locker room of the opposite sex, or even attend sex education classes with the opposite sex, you will never be informed of that information. Now, in California, something similar was being heard in the 9th District. They said that violated constitutional rights, and the U.S. Supreme Court agreed with the 9th District that it violated constitutional rights not to inform parents. So even as the Supreme Court has already weighed in on this issue that parents should be informed about what's going on with their child's social and emotional health, like their gender identity at school. And yet here in New Jersey, many parents, depending on the district, don't have that right. Think about that. Parents in San Francisco have more parents than in many towns right here in New Jersey.
Yeah.
That's a real good explanation of this whole thing. And it's not just some accidental that parents don't know. The policy states there is no affirmative duty for any school district staff member to notify a student's parent of the student's gender identity or expression. They make it very, very clear. And there's a thing on confidential records that parents are, it's very specifically leaving the parents out of the equation.
So this is the policy where they talk, when people refer to secrets, they're talking about policy 5756, where, as you said, Shawn, a child can exhibit confusion with their gender. And based on this statement here, the school district does not have to inform the parents. And that child can socially transition, change their dress, change
their name,
go into the opposite lavatories, not only attend the classes, but they can also go into locker rooms, showers, and also play on the opposite sex athletic teams. So this is the worst case scenario here that is still in play in New Jersey. Now, this decision out west, Shawn, that only applies to the West Coast Circuit. What was that, 12, did you say it was? Or
it's the 9th Circuit. It only applies to them now because technically the case is still being heard in the 9th Circuit, but why it's being heard, the judges ruled until the case is fully heard in court, until then, parents must be told. And so they kind of made an injunction against the California's policy. So until it's heard in court, parents must be told. But with the Supreme Court already saying that's correct, they should be told, that means if it ever gets to the Supreme Court level, they're going to weigh in that parents should be told. So we know what the outcome is. We know what the end result is. It may take years to get there, but the Supreme Court is not going to allow parents to be lied to here any longer.
Yeah,
I believe, and you may be aware of this, we have one under appeal here in New Jersey that could be significant. Heaps versus Delaware Valley Regional High School. This is public knowledge, it's public information. It's going to be heard apparently in Philadelphia at the Byrne Building sometime this year.
Right.
So that could be very significant for New Jersey. So you and I, we're going to want to keep on top of that one. But it's, I think, also in a case under appeal. Are you aware of it yourself?
Yes, that'd be in the 3rd District. So let's just right now in that case, the judge has decided to keep parents in the dark here in New Jersey while the case is being heard, opposite of the 9th District. But if these two districts, the 9th and the 3rd, come out with different outcomes, like legal different outcomes, let's say the next year or two, and they're in disagreement, eventually then it's going to go to the U.S. Supreme Court. But we already know what the outcome will be there. They will protect parental rights. So even though in the immediate sense the fight is real, we are very hopeful that in the long term we're going to win.
Well, that's good. Things look hopeful anyhow.
Yes.
All right, so I think that's on our list here. Is there anything else that we should keep our eye out for that's like high on your radar screen here in Trenton?
I guess one simple thing real fast I'll throw in there is just age verification for online pornography. I know that there have been bills sponsored here in the state by some Republican legislators. I believe now some Democrat legislators will also become prime sponsors of these bills. We're not sure if they're going to move. We're not sure if they're going to have a committee hearing, unfortunately. has already been passed by over 20 states in America, where you have to have age verification to access online pornography. But yet, for some reason, here in New Jersey, you don't need age verification to go online and find that material. Again, children in Texas are more protected than children in New Jersey. And it
That's
simply
right.
shouldn't be that way.
Yeah. And that's already been tested in the Supreme Court. So it doesn't have to go that route. So.
Well, we appreciate you showing up for us tonight. Sorry about some of the communication glitches, but we got a good part of your comments in.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to be with you tonight. Yeah. Sorry about the communication issues and the technology. It's always a challenge sometimes, but hopefully I was able to communicate what I had to say tonight to your audience. It was great to be with you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Shawn.
We'll see you out in the neighborhood up in Trenton.
I'll be there.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye. I guess
we'll just take a short break. Yep. So
America's Pulse Network. The mainstream media is bought and paid for. The truth is twisted to fit their agenda. But America is waking up. Because podcasts are the future for trusted media. Welcome to the America's Pulse Network. It is a network built by patriots that upholds the Constitution. But America's Pulse Network stands for God, truth, and the America First movement. There is no corporate propaganda, no government spin, just real news, real talk, and real voices fighting for faith, freedom, and the future of this great nation with common sense. Here are some of America's Pulse Network podcasts. Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. The New Jersey Statehouse Watch, hosted by Jack Brangan and Constance Ditzel. APN's The Pulse is moderated by either Alexandra, Damon, Elena, or Seth. Also tune into America's Pulse Network on the following social media platforms: X, Rumble, Truth Social, Parler, Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. Join the revolution because the pulse of America beats for God and country. America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and
So we are back.
So we'd like to show you a video from yesterday. We've got it's a 1.5 minutes, not long at all, but this pertains to being at the Statehouse yesterday in Trenton when the sanctuary state bills were codified.
Right.
Can you throw that up there?
Yeah, this was the Paul Kenitra.
This is not about discrimination. It's about simple right and wrong.
Let's give Assemblyman Kenitra a big round of applause for setting this up and all of the people that are involved.
New Jersey State House Annex. Capitol Dome is just over there, right behind my shoulders. This building is supposed to belong to each and every one of you. But let me ask you a question. When you see the insane bills they're passing, left and right, do you think Democrats give a damn about any of you? No.
Immigration status affects a flight risk or credibility. Law enforcement must provide written notices when ICE inquires about a detainee.
At the expense of the good, hard-working Americans in this country and in this state. And you know what? That's just wrong.
Okay, we missed some of the video there, but you heard what was going on. This was on the Statehouse Annex. Speaker, Assembly people, Dawn Fantasia, Paul Kenitra, DeMaio, Senator Testa. We also had some angel moms. If you don't know who angel moms are, they also spoke. These are parents who have lost their children at the hand of illegal immigrants and by fentanyl, which is sailing across the border at rapid speed. We had a mother there whose son lost his life to fentanyl. So it was a rather moving rally.
Yeah.
It was very moving, but it wasn't moving enough.
It didn't move the Democrats.
It did not move the Democrats in the supermajority. They voted 3-4 bills in yesterday.
Yeah,
that
so
all pertain to what we talked about last week.
Right. So people should understand that not only are New Jersey going to become a center for abortion, we are slowly moving towards becoming a sanctuary state. And yesterday, with the vote in the Assembly, was a big milestone where despite the rally and despite wonderful presentations by Dawn and Paul and several other Assembly people, very compelling speeches, the Democrats were unfazed. They couldn't care less. So all the Democrats voted to make us a sanctuary state. What this means now, I think the Senate is taking these bills up. Mm-hmm. In the Senate, the Democrats have the majority as well. And so likely it will become law. It'll be passed in the Senate. And that's where we are now. It was passed in the Assembly. Mm-hmm. It's over in the Senate. If it gets passed in the Senate, then it'll go to Mikey's desk.
And to be clear, we have already been a sanctuary state since 2018 with the Immigrant Trust Directive, which is kind of like an executive order. This stuff was codified into law yesterday.
Right.
That's why the Assembly met. That's why the rally on the same day. And I have to say, very, very concerning that they were not moved by the deaths and the loss of life. They're not moved by the number of people that trudge their way across these borders and that are trafficked. Yeah. Or that have to pay a lot of money to cartels to get through. And you'd think if that didn't work, that they would be moved by the fact that we're spending $7 billion a year of taxpayer dollars. That boggles my mind. But you got to remember, they're earning $86,000 apiece for part-time work. So maybe this doesn't affect their pocketbook.
Right.
But we are paying for this, my friends.
Yeah, the Immigrant Trust Directive was passed in 2018. This was codified in one of the bills yesterday. So that is on its way to becoming law, is now being debated on the Senate side. But it was expanded. The other laws had to do with prohibiting helping ICE in any number of locations, office buildings and that sort of thing. There's a whole list. Anyone in those locales cannot help ICE at all.
Look at our podcast from last week if you want the definition on those bills.
Yeah,
that's up there with Paul Knit.
Yeah, so so it's on its way. In addition to the money, there are deaths, murders, and rapes that have occurred. So this is the Democrats are moving this into a very dark position here. So. So that was, unfortunately, you didn't see the video. There was some very compelling video that I put together. But so is there anything else on those that we want to comment?
I think we're good to go.
Okay. And that brings us up to another short break.
Yep.
Mr. Producer, I think we're there.
What do you want me to do?
Okay, these are the people that are, this is who we have scheduled for next week.
Right.
Okay, right. So maybe you can talk.
Yes, next week we have, or next 2 weeks, that will be April 14th.
Right.
April 14th. Melanie Dragone. She is from the New Jersey 5-PAC, which is the public institution on public health. I know I don't have the name right, but it has to do with vaccine schedules, with the fact that New Jersey Department of Health is going to determine our vaccine and our health moving forward rather than listening to CDC guidance. So they are very informed. They're a great grassroots organization that has sprung up and doing a lot of work. They're very instrumental in getting our kids out of masks when it was time for it to end. Yeah. So please come and listen in when we have Melanie here. And then after that, who do we have? That's April 28th.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but
That's
it's Dawn Fantasia.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, she's all over the place on all. She's another great spokesperson, warrior in the assembly. She's going to be a really good interview. I think she's probably. I would say Dawn and Paul are probably the leading two people in the assembly. So that will be a good interview. By the way, we are on the second and the fourth Tuesday of every month that we will be airing, and we are going to be coming up with some 3 or 4 other guests as well that you'll be notified about. Our focus is strictly on the state of New Jersey, on the bills that are going through.
Correct. And if you don't catch us live, you can catch us on Apple, Spotify, on YouTube,
and Amazon.
And of course, America's Pulse Network, which we're on right now.
So
thank you. Tune in again.
And so thanks everybody for tuning in. We will see you in a couple weeks.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on the New Jersey Statehouse Watch. Join Jack Brangan and Constance Ditzel every second and fourth Tuesday of the month at 7:30 p.m. Watch the show live at njstatehousewatch.com or listen anytime. Download the podcast on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next time on the New Jersey Statehouse Watch.
Did we ever put our names on the first panel?